George Santos is suing Jimmy Kimmel. I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but I actually think Santos has a case for theft, at least on the copyright side. Quick background. In December, the late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel showed a series of videos from the website Cameo, which allows users to submit requests for personalized videos from celebrities, athletes, etc. The videos Kimmel showed featured Santos, the ousted lawmaker out of New York who's facing a series of criminal charges for fraud and who has made a second career somehow out of Cameo, giving his congratulations for ridiculous accomplishments submitted by Jimmy Kimmel under fake names, congratulating these fake people on winning a beef eating contest or successfully cloning a dog. And on Saturday, Santos filed a suit in district court in the Southern District of New York, claiming that Kimmel and the host networks engaged in copyright fraud, breach of contract, fraudulent inducement, and unjust enrichment. The irony is palpable. But here's the thing. There are two separate legal concepts at play here, copyright and licensing. And although a lot of people use copyright infringement and license infringement interchangeably, they're actually very different things. So let's tackle the easier one first, licensing. When I first passed the Cameo Terms of Service, it seems pretty obvious that Cameo owns a non-exclusive right to be able to license the videos made by creators to users. The vast majority of those licenses seem to be personal use licenses, which basically just means for the most part you can't use it for commercial or promotional purposes. Now it seems from the complaint that Kimmel, again using fake names, seems to have bought personal licenses. And honestly, if that's true, knowing what it was going to be used for, that is inexplicable. I don't get it. But on my read of it, that's likely not an issue that Santos has any standing on, because he doesn't own or operate the license that Cameo sold to Kimmel. That license, and potentially license infringement, is retained by Cameo. And at least as of now, they're not a party to the lawsuit. Now, is it possible that they do initiate something on their own or work something out separately? Yeah, because honestly, these licenses are basically their entire business model. It's hard to believe they would just sort of say, oh well, and potentially set a precedent for other users down the road, because there is such a thing as an implied license based on conduct, which, although way more complicated, is basically saying, look, they've never cared about this before. But in my read, that breach of contract claim is probably going to be something that Cameo has, not Santos. Regarding fraudulent inducement, yes, there is absolutely a term in the terms of service of Cameo to not create fake profiles for users. Again, I'm more inclined to think that that's more of a claim that Cameo can bring. So we're really looking at the issue of copyright infringement. And in provision 2C of the terms of service, pretty expressly states that the video creators still retain copyright over the video itself. Again, difference between copyright and license, which makes even more sense when you consider that the license that Cameo has is non-exclusive, meaning the copyright owner still has the right and ability to be able to license it to other people or entities. Now, as a general matter, copyright infringement happens when a work is copied, reproduced, displayed, etc. without the original permission of the copyright owner. And that seems to be a play here. Okay, now for the fun and potentially complicated stuff. I've seen a lot of stuff online saying, look, it was Jimmy Kimmel, it's a late night talk show, it's comedy, it's obviously fair use, which, as you might remember, is essentially a defense to copyright infringement, where it's permissible to use limited portions of a certain copyrighted material for commentary, criticism, news reporting, educational purposes. And yes, absolutely, this use was for criticism and humor. But the problem that I think Kimmel and the networks are going to run into is that they commissioned this work. And arguably the most important thing underlying most courts' decision in whether or not something is fair use is seeing whether or not the new work is transformative. Here, it seems like they told Santos basically what they wanted him to say, and then they showed most of, if not the whole clip. So I think they're going to have a tough time getting past that initial question of fair use and whether it's transformative. In other words, is it really commentary / criticism if I tell someone what I want them to say, and then I don't really make a transformative use out of it since I commissioned it for that purpose to make fun of? And sure, Kimmel has jokingly said, look, the market for Santos's videos went up after I did this. He should be thanking. And while I get that, you gotta remember that the fair use test is a balancing one. It involves multiple factors. And in general, a lot of courts aren't super receptive to a copyright infringement argument that just says, look, I made this person a lot of money. I made them more famous because I violated their copyright. Because as you might be able to guess, that does create kind of a slippery slope in terms of a power imbalance when it comes to copywriting versus copyright infringing. Because copyright infringement damages for intentionally violating copyright are up to $150,000 per infringement, which, I don't know about you, I think is a pretty expensive joke.